So listen, venomous snakes are an interesting topic. It's something that I've been passionate about since I was young. I think I told you I was 17 when I bought my first copperhead. And a lot of people don't realize that I've kind of messed on and off with venomous reptiles my whole life. Lori is, and we've talked about, Lori just has, it's just a hard no for her with venomous reptiles. That's like, she allows me to do a lot of things. You know, I talked about, you know, someone put a comment, it's pretty funny. They said like something like, Brian wanted to get, well, what the heck were the three things? There was like three things. Like Brian wanted to get an anaconda. Lori said no. Brian has an anaconda. Brian wanted to do this. Lori said no. He has that. And now Brian wanted to get a sloth. Lori says no. Now, you know, but there's a hard no with venomous.
Yeah.
But I always love being around them. I love working with them. But you really have taken, you know, you and amongst other people like Tyler and stuff like that have really been on the forefront of a lot of the free handling stuff. And I'm sure you've taken some heat on that. And it's like I had mentioned before, I think it's analogous to say like Tony Hawk on a skateboard. You know, he's inspiring maybe youth to follow his lead, but if some kid gets hurt on a vert ramp, it's not Tony Hawk's fault. You know what I mean? And so I think that people have to take responsibility for themselves, but free handling is a touchy subject, right?
Yeah. It's always been, I mean, and I've been doing it since I started keeping venomous, you know, because my mentor did it himself. Like that's how I learned doing shows with, you know, big 5-foot water moccasins.
Right. And who's the mentor?
David Weathers.
Oh, David.
Yeah,
oh, my God, the Cobra Kid.
Yeah, he was my mentor for my peer day.
Yeah.
So, you know, I learned a lot from him, watching him for many years, working very close with him. So that's not saying that that's what he taught me, but like, you know, I watched him do it. So I'm like, wow, I want to do that too. So,
right.
you know, I'd watch what he did, then kind of convert it to my own thing. You know, I've been doing that for years.
Yeah.
And yes, it is. I stopped doing it as much after we had our daughter,
right?
Just because, you know, I'm a dad now, so I think differently. But
sure, yeah.
No, but I mean, it's to the point where it's like it was nowadays. So there's a lot of new people getting into the hobby.
Yeah,
like I've seen such a difference in just the past 2 years. How many new people,
right?
And they're getting huge collections. I think too fast for being so new, but. Yeah. There's a very lot of new people in almost every single person. And it's a lot of younger people. Yeah. They're all free handling.
Yeah.
You know, it's not to say it's anybody's fault, but it's like, yeah, I'm sure they've seen, you know, other people do it. So like, I want to do that. I want to do it better. Good for them. But like, yeah, it's not, it's always been a touchy subject, but it's like, you know what you're doing. You know, you're holding a snake that could very easily kill you. So it's like, if you want to take that risk, go ahead and do it. I usually only do it with snakes I know very well, or, you know, like my snake, my Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake, I've had it since it was a baby. It's now 3 years old. And I could literally let him crawl in my lap.
Right.
And he doesn't rattle. He doesn't do anything.
Right.
He's fine. You know, so it's just, different people handle snakes different way. That's how I feel comfortable doing it. You know, Tyler taught me, between Tyler and Tom, you know, they're the ones that taught me how to handle cobras the most. So, you know, first time Tyler ever handed me a cobra, he's like, here you go.
Wow.
Big banded Egyptian. I was like, wow, he still has that cobra, but it's that's, you know, that was literally the first cobra I've ever held was that. And then, you know, I worked with him for a couple months, and then Tom was like, oh, you want to come help me down at the farm? And I was like, yeah, sure. No problem. You know, and then after that I was like, wow, 3,000 cobras later.
Wow.
Because, you know, he has the Venom line. So it was all monocles, but I mean, I was cleaning that entire room in
holy cow. Yeah, that was old. And that room was crazy because like it's all in drawers, you know. So you like you slide that drawer and that thing is popping up. I mean,
right in your face.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, that's different level right
so
there.
I mean, I think I got very comfortable with cobras just because of Tom and that mass collection, because it's like, you know, at least 300 cobras on a wall. So it's like you're trying to get that done as quick as you can. So it's like, you know, you can pull it out with the hook and wait for it to be comfortable, or you can just grab that thing, put it in the garbage can, keep going.
Right.
So it's like that's what we initially did.
Sure. So. Yeah. And I think some people actually even feel like a little bit more in control if they don't have that hook. You know what I mean? It's like there's a guy down in Australia, Shane Black, and he keeps all the Australian Lapids. You know what I mean? Just like, you know, from Taipans to King Browns to Easterns, Western Browns, all that stuff. And he doesn't even own a hook. Yeah. No hook at all. Doesn't even own a hook. You know, now he's been bit a few times, but he's survived it. And some people talk about the Australian Lapids are almost great because there's great antivenin and the death rate is so low, you know what I mean? And that there's no necrosis. There's no, like, I mean, even I would rather get bit by a Eastern Brown than a Diamondback, you know what I mean? Because you're going to have a lot of pain no matter what happens.
Something's going to happen to that part of your body that's
you're probably
recover.
Probably not going to have a finger or something afterwards, so, or a fer de lance or something like that.
I had my buddy Joe from Australia, Joe Mack. He came and stayed with us for almost a month. You know, and this was the last house, last year, and you know, he handles a lot of the elapids over there. He was doing snake removals.
Okay.
So, you know, he was coming over and he was, you know, handling my elapids, and he's like, okay, this is cool. But then he's like, you know, I really want to handle the vipers, because he's like, wow. I met him actually through Tom. Okay, not to bring him up again, but he was interning with Tom for a couple months, going to school at UM. Okay. So he came down, you know, a couple of years later, and he stayed with us, and you know, I pulled out the big rattlesnakes, and he's like, this is amazing. And then he like starts holding them this weird way, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he has like this I like to call it the signature Mac hold.
He always
does it like up and
so like you notice a lot of the guys in the pictures and videos in Australia. I mean, they're holding the lapid by the tail, up in the air, and he was doing it with the big Eastern, and I'm like, don't do that. That's bad. Like, that Eastern will turn around and mess you up. Like, they are uncomfortable like that, you know. Versus the lapids were like, whatever. But so like, and he was like, wow. He's like, I didn't even think about it like that. Yeah. But I mean, he said,
well, they're so heavy, you know. I mean, their bodies are so heavy that it's, you know, you hold them up and it's going to be right down to their head, you know. So, and you're right. That's exactly how they've. I mean, those Australians are crazy. I mean,
love them to death. Love them to death.
They're all out there. I mean, every trip I've ever had, you know, it's like I go to these guys' places, and the way they handle stuff is just outrageous. You know, like how have you not died like 100 times? You know, I remember I was down in Gosford at the Australian Reptile Park. A guy named Johnny Weigel owns it, and first time I had ever. You know, been down there. You know, I met him the day before. You know, and he's like, "Come to the park." You know, and he has a venom lab there as well, and they do a lot of the extraction. And I walk in, he's like, "Have you ever milked a snake before?" And I'm like, "No, I never have." And he goes, "Well, that tiger snake is got the biggest venom yield in the entire place. Why don't you start with that one?" And literally just hands me a hook, and just like, of course, now there's like 10 Australians in the room. I'm not gonna say no. You know,
shorts and barefoot.
No, most of them did. Most of them, I didn't. I had normal clothes on, but they all had short shorts. Clothes. Yeah, normal clothes. But no, so I ended up, you know, that was the first snake I ever milked was a tiger snake, and it was a sweetheart. You know, again, those venom, you know, they're in that line, like you said. They're so used to it. I mean, they really know what the scoop is. It's like just like, you know, all the.
If I don't fight it, it'll go faster.
Yeah, you know, they just get in the routine and stuff like that. I'm you know, now. Later on, we did some wild animals, not, you know, several trips later, and did some milking. Different story. I mean, like, scary. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, it didn't just sit. Hey, wait a second. Why is it just not sitting there when I try to grab its head? You know? It's like flying around and stuff like that. You know, but those Australians, they're and I guess it doesn't surprise me, you know, how Steve, you know, Irwin was like that, right? You know, is because he grew up in that world. You know, just kind of being. It's wild, you know, and I don't free handle venomous snakes, not because I'm against it at all. As a matter of fact, I admire it, to be totally honest with you. I probably do it for two reasons. Number one, I do understand mistakes happen, and I don't want to be on the end of that mistake. Not to mention, I've said many, many times that I've had this reoccurring dream since I was a teenager that I was killed by a cobra, by a white cobra in particular. And I still have it all the time. So I figured let's not push our luck too much.
And here comes Lilith.
Yeah. And here comes Lilith. Yep.
Like, hey guys, I'm going to come by. Can I play with Lilith?
Yeah.
No.
My heart rate was, I mean, it was an interesting thing because I was like super into it and super calm, like on the inside, but I realized my heart rate was so high. Yeah. Because it was like kind of facing my biggest fear, you know, king cobras being the king of all, you know, elapids, and then a white one fresh out of the wild, that wants to kill you. I mean, Lilith, I don't know, is she calmed down at all?
Hardly.
Dude. I mean, she wants to kill you. She's definitely like.
So we just the other week we threw a big surprise party for Kevin's birthday.
Oh, nice.
And there was we had a table in that room that she's in that people were just putting gifts on and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
that's nice.
There's like a small group of people in that room, and she was just on point. Anytime anybody moved, she was right with them. And
They're
it's
so
like,
intelligent, though.
dude,
like,
like there's no chill on her, like at all.
It's like Anubis.
That was a fun steak. Yeah, I watched you handle that the other day. That's a nice big king too. That's
he's actually calmed down a little.
Not once he eats a berm. Once he eats a berm, he's
now
full
he's like,
energy.
yeah, I got all that energy from that snake.
exactly.
He's like, I tell you what, like I have you ever seen the clip of Bill Haas getting bit on the Mike Douglas show?
Yes.
That is fucking amazing.
And he's so calm the whole time.
Yeah, just
was
like
like,
the
bro.
calmest in the world. I
Yeah.
mean, just gets tagged on live TV. And back then, I'm sure there was 30 million people probably, watching because there was only 3 networks, and he just was like the calmest person in the world.
Damn, son.
Can we rail this in?